All right, what's going on? This is the King Cam Ujumbe podcast. Ujumbe means message. What's going on? I'm glad to see everybody. Yeah, greet everybody as you come in. This happy Sunday afternoon to you. This is about to get interesting. We are in the throes of this book now. We're in the midst of it. We're in the middle of it. And greet everybody as they come in. Greetings, everyone. We're going to talk about the ancient mother of crocodiles. Yep. We're gonna talk about regicide, rituals, and revenge. It's it's about to get different. I'm glad that you guys are here. Greet everybody as you come in. Greetings, everyone. Yeah, we're gonna talk about the ancient mother of crocodiles. Okay. Yeah. Greetings, Miss Blue. All right. Greetings, Mo. Okay, everyone. Hope all is well today and ready for the info. Yeah, on the croc lady. Man, this book took a turn. That's all I'm saying to you. We're going to talk about the ancient mother of crocodiles, regicide, rituals, and revenge. Man, I'm excited about it, and I'm glad that you guys are here taking this learning journey with me. And get this, the book, the previous chapter, okay, we're right in the middle, but the previous chapter says, as I will attempt to demonstrate part 4 of this book, there is compelling evidence that Amenemhat the Fourth's death really was an act of regicide. An act of regicide. This information, however, comes not from contemporary Egyptian sources, but from Greek historical narratives that up until now has never been linked with those with the stepbrother and sister relationship that existed between Amenemhat and Sobekneferu. Yeah, regicide. Yeah, I'm glad you guys are here. All right, we're about to get into it. Okay, so today we will discuss chapter 16 through 21 of the book. We're going to talk about the mystery of Nitocris, the Turin Canon, the mysterious third pyramid, the ancient mother crocodiles, the cult of Neith, revenge, regicide, and a ritual that might have gone wrong. Yeah. I'm going to answer a few questions. What the ritual that might have gone wrong? And I'm checking roll. That's what I'm doing. You know I do it. I check roll at the end though. So I'm glad that you guys are here. What's going on? And greet everybody as you come in. But yeah, we are in chapters 16 through 21, the ancient mother of crocodiles. So the question today is who was Queen Nitocris? Who was the mother of crocodiles? Did the cult of Neith intervene? Was the labyrinth a trap? Yeah. Was this thing an elaborate setup? And how did an age-old ritual go wrong? Yeah, we greetings everyone. I'm just really excited about this, man. We're learning something new every day. And so in the book, according to chapter 16, this is the books of Queen, the first female pharaoh, born in 484 before Common Era, in the Greek city of Halicarnassus, in modern day Turkey. Herodotus would grow up to become a writer, and his principal work was titled The Histories. Okay, it was divided into 2 books. Okay, and so a lot of people would kind of term him as a father of history, but that's that's a lie. So you know how that goes. So Herodotus also traveled extensively to learn about some of the countries he would come to write about. Okay, so he was a traveling man, right? And so he wrote about Greek, Persian, Assyrian kings, the battles they fought, the political intrigue surrounding the royal court, and he wrote about Egypt, right? This is 454 before Common Era. Okay, this is before everybody else, before the modern day Egyptologists could say something different. These Greek historians are saying this information. So get this. In the Egyptian chronicles, right? The priests of the temple of Memphis informed Herodotus that the Egyptian chronicles speak of the country's first king as being Men or Menes. As we know, he united the the two lands, okay, the very first king of the first old kingdom, the first dynasty. Then the priests would next tell Herodotus of a story of tragedy, murder, and revenge. The priests who are housed in Mennefer or Hetkapata, all right, in Memphis, in Kemet, told this Greek about a story of tragedy, murder, and revenge. These people are telling these people this, okay? And God, it gets interesting, right? So, included in Book 2 of Histories, after him, men came 330 kings whose names and priests were cited from a papyrus scroll. This is the Turin Canon, y'all. This is part of the Turin Canon where they list all the instability, all the kings, recognized kings of Kemet. In all these many generations, get this, according to the priest in Kemet, y'all see what I'm saying, right? According to the priest in Kemet, 18 were Ethiopian. 18 kings of Kemet were Ethiopian, and they said one queen native to the country. The rest were all Egyptian men. Bro, these people that was alive over 2,000 years ago said that 18 of the kings in Egypt, the kings of Kemet, were Ethiopian. That's why I told you the power came from the south. The culture came from the south. Okay. So 18 of them were Ethiopian. Okay. And so this was the knowledge that was passed down. As you can see, you see Setai the first right here. He's teaching his son Ramses II this knowledge. Okay. It is passed down. So they knew the power came from the south, and the name of the queen was the same name, the same that was of the Babylonian princess Nitocris. Okay, according to the Greek historians, she is to avenge her brother. Man, the Greeks are saying she is to avenge her brother, and he was the king of Egypt and was slain by his subjects. Oh, it's already going down. These people are saying that this princess named Nitocris came to avenge her brother because he was killed or unalived by his subjects. Okay. Greetings, Miss Haynes. Greetings, everyone. Okay. Yeah. It's about to get a little different. So they already open up with the idea that something happened to one of the kings and his sister or stepsister got involved. Yep, that's the conversation, and that's what the priests are saying. Okay, and now get this. I don't know before I get to that part. All right, now get this. She built according to the source. I got to get to it. Yeah, here it is. Now she built a spacious. Get this, y'all. According to Herodotus and the priests in Kemet, they said she built a spacious underground chamber. Okay, then with the pretense of selling it or hand selling it, but with for other intent in her mind, she gave a great feast, inviting it to those Egyptians who she knew to have been most concerned in her brother's murder. So according to legend, according to the priests, according to the Egyptian chronicles, this princess had a spacious underground chamber. She built that. She built a labyrinth. Okay, she was going to sell it, but before she sell it, she was going to give a great feast, inviting those Egyptians, those people who she knew that had something to do with her older brother being taken out. And while they was eating their chicken, and while they was living lavish, she set the river in upon them by a great and secret channel. This was all that the priest told of her, save that when she had done this, she cast herself into the chamber full of hot ashes, thereby to escape vengeance. So According to the priest, they are saying she had a feast and took them boys out, and then she turned around and went to the chamber full of hot ashes. That's what they're talking about. That's what they're talking about. So this was all that the priest told of her. That's what they said. Okay. So wait a minute. So what happened to Sobekneferu? Okay, that's the main question. Is she this person that went into the hot ashes? And is she the one that decided to host that dinner? Okay. If you like the content so far, subscribe so you don't miss anything, because it's about to get real different in a few minutes. All right. Let me see who's out here. What's going on? Let me see. Okay, I see you. Greetings. Okay. Isu, I see you. What's going on? Greetings, my people. Shout out to the fam. Yeah, this man, this is great. I tell you, I love it. Now, who was Nitocris? Who was she? Okay. There's a lot of debate about that. There's a lot of concern about that. And so this account is the earliest reference to we have to a female sovereign named Nitocris, according to Herodotus, right? Who, following the death of her brother, the king, decided to take herself out, right? Now, let me get to it. So the question: who was she exactly? And how does she fit into this narrative? Okay, who was she, and how does she fit into this narrative? Right. Now, this is what was said about her in the epitome of Africanus. Nitocris, the noblest and loveliest of the women of her time, of fair complexion, the builder of the third pyramid, and she reigned for 12 years. Wait a minute. According to some of these people, they're saying she built, Nitocris, whoever she is, she built the third pyramid. Wait a minute. Hold on. What's going on, Library Without Borders? Shout out to the fam in Canada. He came just in time. Yeah. So, because we know that there was another individual that built the third pyramid. Okay. But the Greeks are saying she built it. Nitocris built it, right? So, of the 38 kings, Egyptian kings, Rosthenes records Nitocris is listed as the 22nd in line. Okay. And so, but now the thing is, why would they do that? Why would they name her name and then say what she built? Not much is said about her other than she was a woman and not a man. He adds only that her name was means bringer of victory. Nitocris, bringer of victory. Okay. Now, Eratosthenes is linking Nitocris with the Egyptian goddess Neith, whose Greek equivalent was Athena, or the Greeks was inspired by her. I'm tired of people saying that our African culture is an equivalent to something else. No, they were actually trying to bring themselves up to us. Okay. Say what it said. Now, hey, that's what it is. Okay. Yeah, you couldn't miss this one because yeah, you just sit there. Hold on. Yeah, this is interesting. Okay. All right, now I'm just glad for those who are on the replay. The fam is coming in. Thank you all for listening. Don't forget to subscribe, but I'm just glad that you guys are here on this Sunday afternoon. Now, all right, so Scottish language scholar W.D. Waddell, who translated Manetho in 1940, notes the connection with the queen's origins. Nitocris is doubtless, according to him, is Nitocris or Netkare, okay, or Netkaret with that T. Because remember, the T at the end feminizes that term, right? So he's saying that Nitocris is Netkare in the Turin Papyrus, which means net is excellent, and was a favorite name used in the Scythe dynasty, that is in the 26th dynasty, which is devoted to the worship of Neith. The queen's reign ending in the dynasty is followed by a period of confusion. That's the reason why they're connecting Nitocris with Sobekneferu. because once she transcended, okay, the queen's reign, ending the dynasty, is followed by a period of confusion just after the 12th dynasty. So when Queen Sobekneferu closes the line, that's what they're saying. In Greek is Skimiforis. But as we know, that's Queen Sobekneferu, right? But these guys are tying this Greek person, this Greek term, Nitocris, with Sobekneferu, because after she passed, the dynasty was in shambles. That 13th dynasty, the Hyksos and all them, right? And so, who was Nitocris? This is the second time Neith it has showed up in our discussion. So my question is, should we go into detail about Neith? Like and comment below. Should we go into detail with this individual? Because this is the second time she has popped up in our conversation. Okay, y'all let me know. Like and comment below. Who was Neith? Should we talk about her? Okay, because yeah, she is starting to show up in the chat. All right, and so I'm glad you guys are here to get in on this conversation. So let's go. Now, the Turin Canon. Here we go. The Turin Canon, there are several kings lists. That's the reason why I said Queen Cleopatra wasn't her. Okay, speaking of that, hold on. Speaking of that, I'm going to, let me remove this. I am going to, in a few weeks, I know we're about to get into Mother's Day weekend, but we did the top 5 queens of the Nile Valley. We did that. But now, there's a couple of queens in the Nile Valley that was trash. And so we're going to have to talk about the 5 queens that was trash. I said what. So we're going to talk about that. Because we always romanticize the leaders of the past. It's, even in Africa and Kemet and all that, we always say how great and wonderful they were and all that. But there was a couple of them that was trash. Okay, and we're going to talk about that. Yeah. So the question, my original question was, should we bring in Neith into the conversation? Of course, Mo, he's a great encourager in this foolishness, and he wants me to go further. He says, of course we should just give a little bit of who she was and what she did. Oh, it ain't gonna be just a little bit. It ain't gonna be just a little bit. You know how this go. So, man. All right. So yeah, the Turin Canon. Now, now, of course, when it comes down to the references of Sobekneferu, did the Turin Canon have Nitocris or Netkare? Let's find out. Okay, let's find out if Nitocris is actually spelled out in the Turin Canon like this. All right, because we know Sobekneferu is in there. Okay, and it's however Waddell's he's thinking that Nitocris, according to some scholars back then, they think Nitocris was in there. Let's look. Okay, now let me see if I can share my screen. I'm gonna remove this. Let me see. Because I want you guys to see that. Hold on. Okay, now this is, I don't know if you can see it. All right, now this is part of the Turin Canon right here. Okay, this item here is the Turin Canon. As you can see, this is the Middle Kingdom. Okay, this is the Middle Kingdom, and so you see some familiar names, right? You see Neferkare, and you see, let me see where's Sobekneferu. Let me see. Hold on, let me get to it. Okay, these are the dynasties. This is all right. Now, this is the question. Okay, I don't think this one has Sobekneferu on here, but they're saying, you see, there it is. They're saying, according to the Greeks, they're saying this term here, this person here is Nitocris. Nito Chris, that is Coptic language right there. And they're trying to say she is Netkare. It's a stretch. They was reaching. Okay. They was reaching. Okay. Because they're trying to credit Remember, they're trying to credit Nitocris as the builder of the third pyramid. Yeah, it's a stretch, y'all. And so, but yeah, you can. I'm gonna put the link in the description. I will put this information in here, the Turin Canon, and all the good stuff. So we'll get to that later. These are the builders of the pyramids here. Okay, it's Pepi, Menkaure, Neferkare, but they're saying Nitocris, a woman, nothing wrong with that, is the builder of the third pyramid. That's what they were saying. Okay, let me stop and remove that. Now, let me get back to my other presentation. Okay, here we go. Now, so did the Turin Canon, the question is, did the Turin Canon have her name in it? Nitocris as the pharaoh? No, unfortunately not. No, it did not have the Greeks and Romans misspelled the name. They mispronounced the name, but Nitocris, according as the way the Greeks were terming it, that wasn't her. Okay, that wasn't her. Okay, that was not her. So, the Turin Canon was divided into 11 columns, and they tried to put her in there, but we have to understand that title, Neter, okay, was a title. It was not their actual name. So what happened? She didn't exist. She did not exist. Okay, so get this. According to Collins, here the king's throne name is Neterkare, derived from Neterkara, which means deified or the soul of Ra, right? Check out Pharaoh SE, by the way. Neter is very different, as we know, is different than Nefer. Okay, because they were trying to say it was Neferkara. No, it is Neterkara. Okay, because Neferkara means perfect or beautiful one of the Kara. And this, you see that little shovel? Look, that is Nefer. Okay, so in this sense, okay, Neferkara is not Neterkara, right? So who did it? Okay, who actually built the third pyramid? Who built the third pyramid? All right. Most says, but can we really believe the Greeks after they tried to change the color of the folks? No, we can't. No, we can't. But the reason why we are using some of these individuals, the reason why we're using, say, Herodotus and a few others, is because they were there. They weren't there in their old kingdom. We know that, but they was there getting some of the information from the priests that were in Memphis, that was in Thebes. So they got some information. So remember that the names are important. So we understand in column 5, Neterkara, that's a prenomen. Okay, so but if you break his name down, you see Sipata, or the son of Ptah. His whole name was lengthier, and it was more involved. And so, and then other Greeks would say, nah, bro, that was a man. It was not Nitocris, but it was a man, right? So so what happens is when we're looking at these names, this Neterkara, okay, this takes away still further connection between Nitocris and this particular king in the 6th dynasty, okay? And so in summary, it would be seen that Nitocris listing in the 6th dynasty of kings was presented by one Greek philosopher named Manetho from a false association with the king. Okay, so Nitocris, as far as reigning in the 6th dynasty as instability, didn't exist. Didn't exist. All right. So what happened? Okay. Now, did she build the third pyramid? Absolutely not. She did not build the third pyramid. Okay. She didn't do it. The third pyramid could be little doubt that this alludes to Menkaure. Menkaure that built he is the grandson of Kafade. Okay, Menkaure built at Giza following those of Khufu and his grandfather Kafade. All three kings reigned during the fourth dynasty. The Greeks also got the dates wrong and the time periods wrong. Okay, so the third pyramid, the builder of the third pyramid is not Nitocris. Matter of fact, it's not Sobekneferu. It was Menkaure. Okay, that's the one who built it. Okay, and of course we know Menkaure, that's a dude, right? And so this, and then they would even go on to say this was an enormous pyramid built like tomb built for her east of the third pyramid. Was there a fourth pyramid or a false pyramid? We don't know. Okay, but there's pyramids all over. But the three pyramids, the third pyramid was built by Menkaure. Okay, so yeah, we get Sobekneferu was a ruler in her own right, but we got to put her in the right period of time. Okay, we got to do that. Okay, now so the authors pointed out that the king that ruled was Menkaure. Okay, so there's some people that went behind the Greeks to clarify that Menkaure did do that. So Sobekneferu as Nitocris. So we already ruled out the fact that Nitocris didn't build the third pyramids. We already ruled that out, and the people already mentioning that they want to talk about Neith a little bit later. We will do that, but there's some other things that we got to address. Okay, there's some other things we got to address because there's a story that's told that somebody wanted revenge, that somebody wanted to take some folk out because they took out her brother. That's the thing. Okay, that's part of it, right? So, but they're saying Nitocris did this and not Sobekneferu. So Herodotus' account in Book 2 of the histories of how Nitocris avenges her brother the king by unaliving all these people responsible for him coming up missing or getting that permanent relaxation. Okay, and then she turned around and go into the chamber of ashes. Okay, this was conveyed by Greek writers by the priests of Egypt, apparently those in the temple of Memphis. So previously, we've already discussed that there were some Egyptian nationalists that were not happy with her stepbrother. Okay, they weren't. So remember, she built the spacious underground chamber, then with the pretense of selling it. But before she sell it, she's going to have a nice little dinner, inviting them into the chamber, and she was going to let the Nile River flow and go ahead and take them out. Okay, and then once that was done, she herself would go to the chamber of ashes. So we already know Nitocris would then build the third pyramids, but there's still some association with Nitocris and Sobekneferu dealing with this part of the story. Okay, so Herodotus' account talks about she avenging her brother. This was written by Herodotus by the priest in Kemet, right? Now, as we said before, Collins introduced this theory about a stepbrother. I said a stepbrother because Amenemhat was not born into this. We talked about that before. He was not born into this thing, okay? He may have been unalived by a group of people because of his progressive policies, and he was too welcoming of them foreigners out there, which became unpopular to the nationalists concerned about foreign influence. This perspective sheds light on an internal strife that may have paved the way for Sobekneferu's rule. But there was a lot of things going on in the Middle Kingdom, and it was rocky from the very beginning, y'all. Okay, it was very shaky from its inception. Okay, so according to Collins, the important statement there is that 330 kings listed, just one was queen. Okay. In other words, a female sovereign. The fact, however, that they allude to just one, not two or three or more, tells us that this person had a lot of power and a lot of influence. Okay. And so to answer this question, who was this person? Okay, to answer this question, we need to look at another group of female rulers, okay, and see if it really match up, right? So There's one, of course, Hatshepsut, but she reigned a long time. Okay, she reigned for years. No, that's not it. How about Aten or Nefertiti? No, that was only 12, and she wasn't that powerful. She wasn't hurt. She was married to Akhenaten, but we're gonna get into that in a second. Although there's no indication of gender in these kings and the epitome, they were recorded as female in this section. So the only other female Manetho list is Sobekneferu, and he said the last ruler of the 12th dynasty. So everybody else he notes was king, one female, right? Now, what happened is there were some brother-sister candidates. The epitome of Manetho was recorded by Africanus that the only time there was a brother-sister relationship, or when it came down to the seat of power, was with Sobekneferu and Amenemhat the fourth. And I said what I said. The dude was a random. It just so happened that her daddy had felt sorry for him and all that kind of thing and let him in. So this was the closest candidates that they were saying, because Hatshepsut, no, not with Tutmosis III, her stepson, it didn't work. So it got to be these people. So last week we talked about the unknown daughter of the pharaoh and the king's daughters. Somebody asked, the question was, did Amenemhat III want someone else to rule? Yeah, and it wasn't Amenemhat the fourth. It wasn't his stepson. And somebody asked the question, if there were 8, how was Sobekneferu the 7th and final instability? Okay, that's a good question. Okay, because we're gonna have to answer a few questions, right? We got to get into that, right? So, did Amenemhat want someone else to rule? And if there were 8, how was Sobekneferu the 7th and final? All right, shout out to T Garner 567. Shout out to the fam. Now, Amenemhat, okay, the king father wanted his oldest daughter, Neferu Ptah, to rule. That's one. Okay. Yes, the sister of Sobekneferu did die. Yeah. But how is a question. Now, I think there's some debate about that. Okay. There's a debate about how Neferu Ptah transitioned also. She, according to sources, she was pretty young. Matter of fact, as you notice, her name is in the cartouche, which means she was already official before the coronation, right? So her father already seen her as next in line. But what happened to her? I think Sister Haynes was saying, was it a health factor? Her father was old when he passed, so I don't think it was health. But I know that the mortality rate and so on was pretty low. But for that's kind of strange, right? So next thing is there was 8 rulers. How was Sobekneferu the 7th and final? Here we go. Now, here's why. In the 12th dynasty of Egypt, also known as the Middle Kingdom, is traditional listed as having had 8 rulers. Traditionally, 8 rulers. Amenemhat the first, Sensaret the first, Sensaret the second and third, Amenemhat the third, Amenemhat the fourth, and Sobekneferu. That's 8, right? Now, Sobekneferu is consistently listed. She's always on the list. Queen Sobekneferu is always on the list. But the issue comes when that stepbrother comes in. In some sources, he's listed. In other sources, he's not. Somebody know something about him. Somebody know that he was not really royal blood like that. He just was. The king just took him in. Yeah. So there are some inconsistencies when it comes down to listing Amenemhat, but for sure, Sobekneferu is listed. Now, why is that? Archaeologists had an issue to how to define the end of the dynasty, and we just found out that the king that he wasn't the king's son for real. We just found that out. So, what we all agree on though Sobekneferu is the last ruler. She was recognized, okay, on all the king's list. Okay, but thanks for the question. Sobekneferu is on every king's list, but Amenemhat, the brother, stepbrother, random person that showed up and started eating the food. I don't know. Now, Amenemhat as King Morris. Okay, Amenemhat as King Morris, because these Greeks do not know how to pronounce names. They like doing that a lot. They like doing that a whole lot. After concluding his account, okay, according to the Greek philosophers Nitocris and her brother Herodotus, straight away introduces the reader to another of those 330 kings, and that is the father, Amenemhat the third, as King Morris. Okay, now get this. There's references to Morris elsewhere in Herodotus in his works that he is here speaking of Amenemhat III, who is thought to have additions to the existing temple of Ptah, Memphis, including the construction of the northern entranceway. Now we know that after a series of kings, we know that based on time and circumstance, Amenemhat is Morris, right? So according to the reading, according to Herodotus, it has been Morris who had Amenemhat III, who had undertaking, the extraordinary hydrological venture in the Fayum. Other classical writers, such as Deldus, tells that Morris excavated the lake and cut a channel, allowing the flood waters of the Nile to fill its interior at the time of inundation. Now, remember the story. Okay, remember the story. Nitocris invited all these people to dinner, okay, to this chamber, in this little chamber, and then she opened the doors and the waters start flowing in. Amenemhat is credited to begin this project, this little canal project. Okay, excavated the lake and cut a channel, allowing the flow waters of the Nile to fill in its interior at a time of inundation. So when the Nile River goes up really high, they're able to take advantage of that by making a little canal, so they can make more make more use of it in agriculture. So, and by the way, this picture is Amenemhat III as a priest of the Fayum. Notice his hair. All right, I'm just saying, this is the picture of Amenemhat III as priest of the Fayum, and look at his hair. Yeah, it looks like dreadlocks to me. It looks like locks to me. All right, what do y'all think? What do y'all think? Is this image of a man with a nice little beard and full locks, like he kind of pulled it like a ponytail style? What do you think? What do you think? Like and comment. What do you think about that? Are these locks for real, or is it what they saying, a wig? Okay. All right. So the canal linking the Nile with the Fayum is called the Bar Yosef. Well, the waterway of Joseph. Did you catch that? Now, I've been reading, and I've been reading. I think a guest will make an appearance in this story. Okay, it is completely natural. Okay, and enters the depression through the east-west oriented valley basin. Again, they call this area in the Fayum the Bar Yosef, or the waterway of Joseph. Now, during this 12th dynasty, certain kings engaged in large-scale hydrological programs to clear sections of the channel to permit flood waters to the Nile into the Fayum Depression. Now, according to some of the scholars, said more marvelous than the labyrinth, was that that lake Amenemhat III, by which it stands. This lake was a circuit of 3,600 furlongs and 60, so which is much as the whole seaboard of Egypt. Its length is that of north to south. The deepest part is 50 fathoms. Okay, so this channel was pretty deep. Okay, so that area can contain a lot of water at one time. All right. Now, the spacious underground chamber loading was the labyrinth that will be used by Sobekneferu later. Was this the labyrinth that Sobekneferu used to avenge her brother? Was it the labyrinth? Yeah, we're gonna find out in a few minutes. We're gonna find that out. Now, this is pretty interesting when it comes down to this relationship between Sobekneferu and Neith. Okay, it's pretty interesting because they make that connection. A lot of people make that connection. A lot of people have already said that Neith was a actual ruler of Egypt, and of course, Sobekneferu was a ruler of Egypt, right? And so we find out that Neith was influential in this whole thing. Okay, so but before we get into that, we're gonna talk. We talked about a little bit of Queen Nitocris, the Turin Canon, the third pyramid. Now we're gonna get into the ancient mother of crocodiles. Yeah. Now we're gonna get to the crux of the whole matter. We're gonna get to the business. But before we get into that, I got a question. Y'all. Kool-Aid or sweet tea? Okay, Kool-Aid or sweet tea? And be honest too. If you had a choice, Kool-Aid or sweet tea, which one? Which one is it? If you had a choice, if you had a beverage of choice, Kool-Aid or sweet tea? Like and comment below. Now, the ancient mother of crocodiles. The ancient mother of crocodiles. Now, in the video, I gotta get to this. I'm just going ahead of myself. In the video, in the Tale of Two Ladies, which Neteru was the focal point of discussion? Isis and Nephthys, Nekhbet and Wajet, Sobekneferu and Neferu Ptah, or Hathor or Heteru or Sekhmet? The answer is, of course, Nekhbet and Wajet. If you got that right, you got an A for the day. Okay. If you got it right, you got an A for the day. Right now, the ancient mother of crocodiles. Let's get to it. Was Sobek the ancient mother of crocodiles? Was Sobek the ancient mother of crocodiles? Now, following the death of Sobekneferu, it would appear to have she had been deified. Of course, legends become legendary, right? She was deified in the 13th dynasty. They saw her as some kind of inspiration, okay, in connection with her own nationalistic interests, and also because of her patronage to the cult of Sobek. The actions of these monarchs ensured that an ancestral cult in Sobekneferu's name continued through the second intermediate period and survived into the New Kingdom. Now, having said that, according to Collins, there are clear indications that Sobekneferu's individual memory as Egypt's first pharaoh and ruler of the Upper and Lower Egypt, of the two lands, has started to fragment by start of the New Kingdom. So one apparent example was surrounding this as her being a legendary builder of the labyrinth. But somebody's saying something real quick. Yeah. Okay, the people are talking. Okay. Kool-Aid. Yep. If you had a choice, Kool-Aid or sweet tea. Yeah. Isu is saying Kool-Aid. Okay. Miss Blue Aries, she's saying sweet tea. Sipping a glass right now. Don't forget the ice. Yes, the ice. Very important. Gotta have ice. Okay. Now, Mo, shout out to Mo. Growing up, we had both, but to me, I had to have that Kool-Aid. Go to your neighbor next door and trade a bar of Kool-Aid packages or something. But now I'm telling you this, I'm not gonna even lie to you. I'm team Kool-Aid, but it has to have a hint of diabetes. It got to taste almost like syrup at the bottom. You know what I'm saying? That's what that is. And I got to go to Oak Cliff to get that. I got to go to Big T or something like that to get that. So yeah, the good old days. Yes, sir. Yeah. So the ancient mother of crocodiles. Okay. Now the question is, was Sobek the ancient mother of crocodiles? No, it wasn't. The Sobek is in the form of a man. That don't work like that. Okay. Yeah, it didn't work like that. So Now, the ancient mother of crocodiles, following the death of Sobekneferu, as I mentioned before, they saw her as an inspiration to the connection of the ancestors and the nation, right? So, dealing with this, there was a gift to Sobek, right? The identity of some of these leaders gave a gift to Sokos or Sobek, right? And it was Amenemhat the third. Okay, this concept seems inescapable because we already addressed the fact that they was in the temple of Renutet and Medit Madi, and he was titled as Amenemhat III was titled as the son of Sobek. His daughter Sobekneferu was, however, especially associated with Sobek in name, in her name also, particularly in that of the labyrinth. So they're crediting Amenemhat III by building the labyrinth as well as Sobekneferu. Not only was she arguably the Neteru's patron during her reign, which means she gave a lot of gifts and a lot of items to the Fayum region, to that area. She also uniquely used the crocodile sign as part of her personal name. Okay, so there's every reason to assume that during the latter kingdom, the Greco-Roman age or the Ptolemaic age, in the 323 before Common Era, certain ideas of Sobekneferu's deeds have become absorbed into myths surrounding not only her father but also her. Okay, so they were credited. Her and her father was credited to giving a lot to the priests of Sobek and Sobek of Sadet in those areas, right? Now, the cult of Neith. Yeah, the cult of Neith, one deity that fits the bill perfectly as the ancient mother of crocodiles is Neith. Okay? Okay, she was self-created goddess of war and hunting, who was seen either the mother of the source behind, she's the mother or the source behind many of the Neteru. Neith was one of the oldest Neteru of Egypt. Okay, the oldest deities of Egypt with several very ancient temples in the Western Delta, and was her which was her foremost region of veneration. Okay, so she was respected and venerated in the Nile Delta area of north. Okay, from the very earliest of times. Get this, one of the goddess Neith's principal links with the Fayum was that her name was Mahet Waret. Mahet Waret, which means the great primeval ocean or the great flood. Basically, they're saying this: she was the primordial waters of Noon. Yep. Go ahead and get your shovels out. I forgot to tell you, get something to write on, something to write with, because it's about to go down. Now, Neith was part of that process. Okay, she was part of that cosmic slop, if you will, like in the days of George Clinton, okay, and Funkadelic, where they talked about cosmic slop. The primordial waters of Noon, right? The concept of Noon represents far more than a mere mythological abstraction. It is the fundamental substrate of existence, the infinite, the dark and formless primordial ocean that predates all creation. They're saying she's that. Learn something new every day, right? And in this cosmology, the primordial waters existed in a state of complete undifferentiation. The Noon embodies the ultimate potential, a universal creation, and limitless, expansive, dark, turbulent waters that contain within themselves the seeds of all possible manifestation. In the most profound symbolic interpretation, Noon is not simply a physical space, but a metaphysical condition. It's not just a space, but it's a condition. Primordial ocean represents the complete absence of distinction, no boundaries, no forms, no differentiation between subject and object, between the potential and actual. It is a state of absolute unity where all possibilities coexist in a suspended, undetermined condition. They're saying Neith was this. Neith, in her form as Mahet presided over the primeval waters of creation, signified the night sky by the stream of stars making up the Milky Way. Yeah, so she was part of this, according to the ancient ancestors. We're talking about pre-dynastic periods now. We're talking about before the Old Kingdom. Yeah. And as you can see on this diagram, I'm sure somebody want to know, these are the three pyramids right here of Giza. This the Heru and Makhet. This is the Nile River right here. And in some sources, you see the Milky Way shooting straight up. And according to a lot of sources, the Heru and Makhet was built 10,500 years ago when the constellation of Leo was prominent. And of course, as you can see, the Orion's belt. Okay, so that's why we believe and understand that Kemetic culture and African culture is a lot older than what a lot of the people are saying. Okay, so Neith in her form is Mahet, okay, and presided over the primeval waters. Okay, in addition, I'm reading out the book. In addition to the multitude of aspects I already mentioned, she was considered to be the mother of those snakes and crocodiles who are in the abyss. Okay, in the abyss. She bore the title the nurse of the crocodiles. Okay, and so she is shown embracing two crocodiles, and sometimes those two crocodiles represent the sun and the moon. Yeah. Now, the Book of Fayum. Oh, I gotta hold on before I get to that book. Hold on, I'm gonna get to that book. I'm gonna get to that book in a second. Hold on. Now, one of the goddess Neith principal links of the Fayum was that she was the great primeval ocean, and in the Book of Fayum, she's even recognized in their book. The Greco-Roman papyrus known as the Book of Fayum, Mahet appears several times. Okay, now she's seen as the celestial cow. Some people would say, okay. It's very similar to Heteru, which is true, which is correct. Okay, but in the Fayum, we're talking about Neith was that celestial cow, right? Okay, and in the Book of Fayum, she was probably part of the customs and cultures, and one representation shows her with her hands and arms raised, with twin streams of water pouring downward from her elbows. Okay, I don't know why there's water coming from our armpits, but they drew that. Okay, they decided to do that. Y'all help me out with that. Why would they? I'm childish. I don't care. Why would they have water coming out of her armpits? I don't get that, but but it is what it is. All right, but now so. An expert in the Book of Fayum suspect that this symbolism relates to the manner of the Bar Yusuf. Okay, the canal splits apart just before it enters the Medet El Fayum, causing the surging of waters to flow away in separate directions. So, they're trying to be mature about it and say that it was a representation of the water splitting from the Fayum. Me, I'm childish. I'm like, did she have sweaty armpits? I'm just, I want to know. All right, but. So in the Book of Fayum, Mahet is a key figure, right? And the Neith of Fayum, the presence of the goddess of the Neteru forked tree in the papyrus text is to indicate that there's an ancient shrine associated in the Fayum. We already talked about the fact that the Temple of Isis, the ancient Temple of Aset, is built by the Sphinx, and according to record, that's what it is. Now they're saying that there's a presence of an ancient shrine in the Fayum. Okay, the existence of the Acacia of Neith shrine in the Fayum makes it clear that the Neteru, the goddess Neith, must have been extremely important across the region, especially since she was the mother of Sobek. She is the mother of Sobek. And if you're looking at the picture, okay, you see her crown there with the arrow in her hand, and she is taller than Sobek, which means she is greater than Sobek. All right. Now, in the Book of Fayum, the Neith is shown in association with a symbol, the forked acacia tree. See it? See the tree, the acacia, basically is another word for, that's the Egyptian version of the evergreen tree, right? It's always green, always blooming, all year round, right? That basically means eternal. Okay, so it's symbolic of resurrection or eternity. The split, get this, y'all, pay attention. The split in the tree might reflect how the Milky Way splits into two separate branches in the vicinity of the Cygnus constellation. Y'all, these people made a basic symbol and developed it to the point to where it is going, it's telling us about the stars. The split in the tree might reflect how the Milky Way splits into two separate branches. Wow. Wow. And just like the Dogon connection to Sirius, our Kemetic ancestors knew there was a split in the Milky Way. So they already knew that. You see that little divide right there. There's a split in the Milky Way. Before Europe came here, before telescopes and all this, they noticed that. Wow. And so, according to sources, the split in the Milky Way refers to several phenomena: a visible dark line or dark lane called the Great Rift, a broken section in the Sagittarius arm, or a proposed revision to the number of major spiral arms. Man, I'm going with the first one. They saw the dark lane called the Great Rift. They already knew there was a split in the Milky Way. They already knew that. And they showed it through this acacia tree right here. Wow. Don't forget to like and subscribe. But I've been reading this, and like I said, I'm learning something new every day. And to see that, it's not just the Dogon people that had deep knowledge of the stars. Of course, the people of Kemet did. And they showed it in the Meta Nature. They showed it in their language, right? So, who was the ancient mother of crocodiles? So that's the question. Who was the ancient mother of crocodiles? It was Neith. Neith was pictured as a woman nursing a baby crocodile, and she was addressed with the title Nurse of Crocodiles, reflecting the southern provincial mythology in Upper Egypt, that she served as the mother of the crocodile Neteru, or god Sobek. Now, there's some more about it though. There is some more about it. Should we go? We kind of tap dance with it a little bit. We kind of touched on Neith a little bit. Should we go into further detail about this ancient Neteru? Should we go into detail? I kind of honored some of the fans' requests. We kind of touched on a little bit, but should we go into detail? Should we get a little go a little deeper with that one? Y'all let me know. Let me see what yeah. So Library Without Borders said, yeah, Amenemhat with the picture when Amenemhat the third with him with his hairstyle, yeah, he was rocking locks. He was wearing locks. So therefore, we know what race he was. Okay, stop playing games. All right. So should we go further with Neith, right? Yeah, if she is the ancient and prominent mode, saying yes. Okay, all right. Stay tuned for that. Now, and also, should we talk about or get into the Book of Fayum? Okay, because that's still on the table. Okay, and I have that ready to roll too. Should we discuss the Book of Fayum? Should we get into that? Should we get into details of that? Okay. And so, y'all, this is great stuff. This is an excellent read. Okay, as you say, I'm highlighting and everywhere, right? So it's great. So Regicide, yeah. She was Sobek's mother. We need more information, King Cam. Oh man, they calling me to the carpet. We need more information. Okay, all right. Regicide. Now, the vengeance of Nitocris. All right, let's go back. Let's go back to Herodotus' original narrative. We already wrote out, we already dispelled the fact that Nitocris didn't build the third pyramid. We already dealt with that. But now we're talking about regicide and revenge, right? Okay. She wanted to avenge her brother, who was unalive by his subjects, who then gave her sovereignty, put many of the Egyptians to that good old swimming pool in the labyrinth. Then why would they have to be punished though? Okay, why would they have to be taken out? Okay, now some people would like to say that she's trying to take out those who was responsible for dealing with her stepbrother, right? I think this though, because because Neferu Ptah is gone. Amenemhat the fourth, the stepbrother, is gone. I think she's trying to take out some people that may have known about her involvement with them being taken out. She's probably trying to do away with witnesses. So what do you think? Let's get into this conversation. All right. So what makes sense though, however, that if she wanted to use the death of her brother as an excuse to crack down on any persons seen as potential threat to her reign, in other words, those people put to death were not necessarily conspirators, but they liked her stepbrother. They didn't really care much for her or her how she handled business. So it kind of made some sense now, according to Herodotus, that make more sense with Sobekneferu blaming her brother's death on the closest allies, because all of them was team Amenemhat the fourth, team stepbrother, and not team Sobekneferu. So let's find out now. So was this the labyrinth that would be used by Sobekneferu later on? Was this the labyrinth? Because there are some, by the Black Pyramid, there is a labyrinth design there. Miss Blue is saying she had to get them before they got her, but somebody got her though, because her reign was short. Somebody got a hold of her. Because we got to deal with a ritual. We got to deal with that. Okay, so if Sobekneferu simply put people to death, then why would she then try to escape vengeance? Why would she then do that? Okay, the spacious underground chamber. Okay, we're going to talk about that in a second, though. All right, now the idea of constructing a spacious underground chamber to exact her vengeance can be shown to refer to only that of the labyrinth at Harawa, at least half of which is consisted of underground chamber. So half is above ground, but the rest is underground, right? And so for this will be the place, according to the Greeks, where the great feast happened, and she went on and open the floodgates on them. Okay. Now there's also, according to Herodotus, okay, there's also a double set of chambers, okay, 3,000 altogether, 1,500 above, and some underground. So we have half and half, right? We ourselves viewed those that were above ground and speak that of what we've seen. So Herodotus and some other Greek philosophers went to Kemet and they saw the labyrinth. They saw the above ground part. Okay. So the Egyptian wardens would by no means show the underground part. Okay. The burial, because now at that point that is seen as burial vaults. Okay, of the kings or the ancestors who first built the labyrinth. Okay, it was seen as a sacred space. The labyrinth, as we have seen, as commissioned by Amenemhat III, and after completed by Sobekneferu, it therefore seems highly likely that the spacious underground chamber said to have been built by Nitocris is in fact an abstract memory of the labyrinth on underground chamber. So they're connecting that labyrinth to that story. Moreover, the fact that the spacious underground chamber in the story, the Nitocris story, would have become the final resting place of those who were drowned when the waters overcame them. Yeah. So the question is, was it regicide or fratricide? Yeah. Was it regicide or fratricide? To accuse Egypt's first female pharaoh of being complicit in regicide, which means that is the killing of a dynastic rival, okay, might seem off. It might seem off, right? And even fratricide, the killing of somebody's brother, might seem stuff of drama, but the way the Middle Kingdom has been rolling, I can't put nothing past them, because they've been getting real ignorant around here. Folk being unaligned, folk being taken out, folk stepbrother taking folk place, and all this kind of stuff. Amenemhat, okay, according to Herodotus, okay, and I read this also. Manetho and Herodotus talked about the 12 dynasty kings that was taken out by his servants. Amenemhat the first. I told you, the Middle Kingdom was very shaky, okay, and it started wrong. I just think it started wrong. Amenemhat the first, yeah, he or the second, okay. We're not sure, but they was he ruled for 38 years, a long time, but then he was taken out by his own eunuchs. Wow. His people in his own camp took him out. This is crazy. Senuseret. Okay, in addition to Amenemhat the first, we have an apparent example of an attempted fratricide in the 12th dynasty with Senuseret. Okay, the third. Okay, it's said to have been he conquered a lot of nations, and he expanded the kingdom. And on his return to Egypt, he reached a certain location out there called the Daphne Pelusium. This being a fortress town situated in northern part of the country. While there, according to Herodotus, it says that the Herodotus is getting this information from the priests of Memphis. So Herodotus is reciting the information that's told to him by the people of Kemet. Okay. While Senuseret III was there, okay, his brother, we were told his brother, to whom he had given Egypt in charge, invited him and his sons to a banquet, and then piled wood around the house and set it on fire. When Sesostris was aware of this, he took a council, one of which is so. Wow. So now saw that, okay, went to a foreign location, and he basically was ambushed, okay, and his brother, whom he had given Egypt in charge, invited him and his sons to a banquet. It always involves food. Watch who you eat around. God, watch who you fellowship with. You understand me? Okay. It always involves a banquet or something like that. But they piled some wood around and set it on fire. When Sesostris was aware of this, he took counsel with his wife and brought that information to him. She counseled him. Okay. So since they playing like that, since they taking folk out and their sons, okay, take two of his sons and go ahead and make them into a bridge. You know, since you got to get back to the house, that's how we're going to do that. Make them into a human bridge. Okay, again, we can't say this incident really occurred, but it's a lot going on in the Middle Kingdom. Okay, so it can't be too far-fetched to say that Sobekneferu and them engaged in this, right? Like I said, it can't be. They're not Hotep all the time. They're not reading the book of coming forth by day all the time, right? So this kind of idea, Amenemhet's father, Senuseret the third, and the grandfather Sobekneferu, it was kind of in their DNA to take people out if it's going left, right? So regicide or fratricide. Okay, the final part of the narrative regarding the vengeance of Nitocris is highly enigmatic and far-reaching. He's kind of reaching, for it tells us that this was all the priest told of her, save that also that she had done this and cast herself into the chamber full of hot ashes, thereby to escape vengeance. Now, we dealt with the ancient mother crocodiles, we dealt with the cult of Neith, revenge, regicide. Hold on. Hold on. What about this ritual that may have gone wrong? Did they put too much? Or did they do too much? The Chamber of Ashes. We not done with that. All right. Now the death of Sobekneferu. How did she die for real? It's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of things we know. We finding out that them 3 years was short and it was rough. So we're gonna have a lot of series about that. The fall from grace. We're gonna talk about some factions and what might have happened and what we know for sure. Right? We're gonna deal with that real soon. And so Sobekneferu's drastic measures, okay, to avoid the fragmentation of the Kemetic society of the two factions. So she realized that the walls were basically closing in on her. The Egyptian nationalists, okay, who was kind of for her, but they kind of put her in place, all right? And then the supporters of Amenemhat, right? So, as we've seen, Sobekneferu intended political and economic reforms probably involved a clampdown on the growing influence of the Western Asiatic population in the north of the country, something that is unlikely to have gone down well with some of Egyptian society. Okay, under such circumstances, okay, under such circumstances, therefore, seems plausible that Sobekneferu was given an ultimatum by some influential people. According to Andrew Collins, Sobekneferu may have received an ultimatum: either you do this, or we're gonna have to deal with you. Yeah, it was done by her adversaries, either to stop what you're doing or pay the price. Yeah, unwilling to bend to their demands and to be seen weak. Okay, she chose the latter. She chose that relaxation, right? And so, yeah, dealing with the secrets of the Neteru, right? Now we're gonna get into these chamber of secrets, right? According to classical writers, Cleopatra either allowed a snake to bite her or she took some kind of poison. Plutarch records that two slight pricks on her arm were afterward noted, and maybe that poison was hidden. And of course, I got to say this, by the way, Cleopatra still ain't her, but we're gonna use her as an example because there's some sources that no snake was found. Okay, no snake was found by her, showing that. And so the means of her committing that ultimate act is unclear. It has been suggested that the introduction of a venomous snake into the story of Cleopatra's was deliberate. For since the snake carried some kind of symbolic connotation and symbolic tone, it is further emphasized that the Roman opinion of that queen was little more than how do I say it? The people kind of, even at that time, saw her as an opportunist. All right. So the fact that she also, remember that according to Collins, the fact that Cleopatra saw herself as the incarnation of Aset, the Egyptian nectar of magic and medicine, this could imply that the snake blamed for causing her death was a metaphor for a self-administration of the poison that took her out. Yeah. So she may have ingested some kind of poison. Okay. So this seems confirmed in the knowledge that in one ancient Egyptian legend, yeah, because remember, she did get, just like Herodotus got some information from the priest, Cleopatra got some information about Aset from some of those priests, right? So this seems to confirm the knowledge that in one ancient Egyptian legend, Aset manufactured a snake god out of dust, which is held together by the spit from Ra. So this reminds me of a story. It's story time. I love story time. The story of the name of Ra, or come on, Mo, the lost name. Yeah. We're gonna go ahead and get ready. Just sit back real quick. We're gonna talk about this, the story of the name of Ra, or the lost name. I'm doing all that talking. Y'all can't hear me. I'm about to get into story time and everything. All right. I guess I gotta sit up. All right. I'm back. All right. So here we go. Story time. As I was saying, now the majesty of Ra was the creator of heaven and earth, the gods of men and cattle of fire, and the breath of life. And he ruled over the gods of men. And Aset saw his might, the might that reached over heaven and earth, before which all Neteru and men bowed. Okay. And she longed in her heart for that power. Aset wanted that power. And thereby she should be greater than the Neteru and the ancestors and have dominion over men. Aset had aspirations, right? This is according to the story. There was but one way to obtain that power. One way to obtain that power, by the knowledge of his own name. Okay. So by the knowledge of his own name, Ra ruled, and none but himself knew that secret name. Have you heard like the story of Rumpelstiltskin? Okay, that's kind of a callback to that. Okay, so whosoever could learn the secret, that one, Neteru or man, would belong the dominion over all the world, even over Ra himself, be in subjection. Jealously did Ra guard his secret. This was a secret. His own name was a secret. Nobody knew it, and kept it ever in his heart, lest it would be taken from him and his power diminished. Every morning, Ra would come forth in his glory at the head of the train and from the horizon of the east, journeying across the sky. And in the evening, they would come in the horizon of the west. And the majesty of Ra sank his glory like sunset and lightened the thick darkness of the Duat. Okay, many times Ra came and made the journey so many times that now he was waxed old. He was an old man at this point. He was tired, right? Very aged was Ra, and saliva ran down from his mouth and fell upon the earth. And then Aset took earth and mixed the saliva, and she kneaded the clay. She mixed it and molded it and formed it into the shape of a snake, the shape of a great hooded cobra, that is the emblem of all Neteru, the royal serpent, which is now upon the brow. Of course, we talked about Wajet, okay, on the brow of the kings of Egypt. No charms or magic spells did she use, for in the snake was the divine substance of Ra himself. So she took the snake and laid it in the hidden path of Ra. She put it in the bushes, okay, the path on which he traveled, journeying from the eastern to the western horizon. Okay, so there's that sunboat that goes across the sky. We see those very images. Now, in the morning, came Ra and his train in their glory, journeying to the western horizon of heaven, where they entered the Duat and lightened the thick darkness, and the serpent shot out his pointed head with his shaped like dart in his fangs and bit Ra. That snake bit him. And the fire of his poison entered into him, for the divine substance was in the serpent. Okay, Ra cried out, and his cry rang across the heavens, from the eastern to the western horizon, across the earth, and the Neteru and the ancestors was like they all heard this cry, and everybody who followed in his train, they asked him, "What's going on? What aileth thee? What aileth thee?" But Ra never he never answered a word. He was trembling, he was shaking. He couldn't say anything, but the poison spread through his body as as the Nile River spreads over the land when the waters rise above the banks. So when he became calm, he called those that follow him. Okay, come to me, ye who I have created. I am hurt by a grievous thing. I'm in pain. I feel it through. I see it, but I don't see it. Okay, I didn't make this. This is a big problem. This is a big issue, and I know not who made this. Okay, never have I felt this pain like this. Never have I been in an injury worse than this. Who can hurt me? Okay, who can hurt me? For none know my secret name, that name which is spoken by my father and by my mother, and hidden in me, that none might work this witchcraft upon me. I come forth to look upon the world which I have made and have passed across the two lands, when something that I don't know of struck me. Is it fire? I don't know. Is it water? I don't know. It all I know is I burn, I shiver, I'm cold, my limbs are shaking. Call the children of the Neteru and who have the skill of healing. Call everybody who knows medicine. And so they who have the knowledge of magic, they whose powers reaches to the heavens. Come on, bring them in here because I'm going through it, right? Then came all the Neteru and the ancestors with weeping and mourning and lamentation. Their power was to no avail. Okay, again, they couldn't fix it. They couldn't fix it. For it is in divine substance was incorporated. With them came in Isis. Isis came in the mix. She's the healer and the mistress of magic, in whose mouth is the breath of life, whose words destroy the disease and awake the dead. So she came in there. We already know who made the snake, right? So she spoke to the majesty of Ra and said, what is this? What's the problem? What's the problem? What is this? Has a snake brought pain to thee? Has the creation of thine hand lifted his head against thee? Lo, she says, lo, I am overthrown by the might of my magic. I will drive it out. Okay, I will drive it out by means of thy glory. Then the majesty of Ra answered, I passed along a appointed path, and I passed between the two lands, and this snake bit me. Okay, now I'm colder than water, and I need some help. That's basically what he's saying. And Isis spoke again, and her voice was low and soothing. She said this, tell me your name. She says, tell me your name, O divine Father, thy true name, thy secret name, for he only can live who is called by his name. Then the majesty of Ra answered. He said, I am the maker of the heaven and earth. I am the establisher of the mountains. I'm the creator. I'm the maker of the secrets of two horizons. I'm the light and I'm the darkness. I'm all these things, right? I'm the creator of the living flame. But Isis said, I ain't trying to hear all that. I ain't trying to hear none of that. She said, everybody know that. Okay. And this is the name that all men know. He said, his true name, his secret name is still hidden. Okay. And the power of the poison has increased. She wanted to know his true name. After silence, she spoke again. Thy name, thy true name, thy secret name is not among these. Tell me your name, that the poison may come out. For only in that name you can be healed, right? So then the majesty of Ra cried out, said, come on, Isis, we got to have a meeting. We got to talk. Because, this pain is it's unbearable, right? And so he hid himself from everybody, okay, from his entourage, from his crew, and empty was the boat of the sun, empty was the great throne, and so it was just him, just Ra and Aset, right? So it says, when the name come forth from the heart of Ra to pass to the heart of Isis, the goddess spoke to Ra and said, bind thyself with an oath, O Ra, that thou wilt give thy two eyes, okay, to Horus, to my son. She not only wanted power for herself, she wanted her son, Haru, to have power. Now, the two eyes of Ra are the sun and the moon, okay? And all men can call them the eyes of Horus to this day. But now, this was the name, okay? How was that name given? How was that name given? This is what he did. He went to her, okay? And basically he told her in a whisper from mouth to ear. He told her secretly. No, and the thing is, we all know the other names, but that he told it at a low voice, at a low whisper that nobody can hear it. Only Aset knows that name, that word of power. And so what happened, this is the name was taken from him, given to Isis. She, the great enchantress, cried aloud with the word of power, which the name is still unknown, right? But she knew it. The poison obeyed, and Ra was healed by the might of his own name. And Isis, yeah, mouth to ear, yeah. And Isis, the great one, mistress of the Neteru, mistress of magic, she's a skillful healer, and she was able to heal Ra. Okay, now why did I say all that? Okay, yeah, where's Brother Ferguson when you need him, right? Yeah, so that name was secret. Okay, but it reminds me of something else. Okay, the land. Shout out to this story, this breakdown of the story. Shout out to the land of Cam, the ancestral way. He broke the story down with this illustration. Check this out. check this out. Now we have a diagram that they made. Kefra is the sunrise, right? Ra at the noon, Atun at sunset, which is death, and Amun Ra, that hidden space, that hidden name, is in that place. So we have Zephyra, okay, Kefera at dawn, created at dawn, midday sun, Ra at midday, Ra Atun at sunset, and then at the midnight sun. Okay. Now, for people who try to disconnect the Kongo from Kemet, here is the Kongo Cosmogram. Shout out to Library Without Borders. She kind of asked the question, and here it is. All right. So this is the Kongo Cosmogram. Okay. Shout out to the family Kongo. Okay. Kala, which is fire, Tukala, which is earth. Okay. Lumvimba, which is water, and Musoni, which is air. But as you notice, this is a cycle: birth, maturity, death, and conception. Above ground, that is the physical world, the Nseke, the physical world, and then the Mpemba, the ancestral plane. All right, so now we see there is a connection between Kemet and Kongo. Okay, now we see we have the on above ground, which is the physical plane, and then the spiritual plane there. Okay, yeah, it gets a little different around here. We kind of go in detail. So, but for more of that, check out Asa Imhotep. He's a linguist. He breaks that down. And shout out to the land of Cam, the ancestral way, for the diagram and the knowledge. Check them out when you guys get a chance. Yeah. And so the question was this: is there a cultural connection between Kongo and Kemet or the Nile Valley? Library Without Borders. The short answer is yes. But the long answer, we'll go into details at another time. But you can't unsee that. You can't, Kemet and Kongo, okay? They came for the foothills of the mountains of the moon. That is from the south, right? And this is a Central African king that looks very similar to Asar. See what I'm saying? Now, remember, according to classical writers, Cleopatra either allowed a snake to bite her or she took the poison, right? And remember, Sobekneferu was a priestess. Scholars observe she might have received wisdom and counsel from the Neteru to help rule according to Ma'at, right? Now, so if Cleopatra was able to escape a terrible fate at the hands of Octavian by administering a poison into her body, then could Sobekneferu have departed this world in a similar fashion? So could she have went the same route? Now, did Sobekneferu intend on undergoing this process? Was it foul play, though? Did an ancient ritual go wrong? We still got questions. We still got to deal with that. Did it go wrong? Okay. Now, ritual death and the chamber of hot ashes. Yeah, yes, sir. In the opinion of Andrew Collins, the author, the ritual chamber is a kind of is alluded to a secret space. Okay. The ritual chamber, according to Herodotus' statement about the manner in which Nitocris is able to commit that permanent relaxation with the hot ashes or embers responsible for the female sovereign's unaliving, being a reference to intoxicating incense, right? In the opinion of the author, okay, incense is a kind of this kind could well be featured in the rituals that took place in Egyptian initiations. Arguably, the most famous Adison, a classical tradition, was one located within the temple of Apollo in Delphi in Greece, right? These gases or fumes are thought to have created an intoxicating effect that enabled the prophetess or the initiate to communicate with the ancestor and the Neteru, right? So there was poisons in Egypt. Okay, there was poisons. What incense or substances might have served a similar function in the adulta of ancient Egypt is unclear. We don't know. We don't know exactly, but possibly they could have included psychotropic, that is psychoactive or hallucinations inducing plants, okay, such as opium, poppy, uh, henbane, okay, or even in this mixture, okay, opium, henbane, and hellebore, along with another highly toxic plant named hemlock. They can mix some plants, okay? They can mix some stuff and put it together, because I know we talked about the lotus plant, okay, being part of the process, but these plants are also part of that process, okay? There's a thing called like the datura or the thorn apple, okay? Datura grows wild in Egypt, according to British Egyptologist Alfred Lucas in his article, Poets of Ancient Egypt. It is present in the country, okay? And so it is this kind of thing. They can grind it down, and they can burn it to where it produces smoke. Okay, a light inhalation of that can release some asthma. Okay, this shows how the toxins from datura plant can be easily absorbed into the lungs through the exposure of the smoke, but too much can be too much. Okay, but basically ingesting large quantities of this kind of plant is lethal. Okay, just like anything, in most of the plants can either can hurt you or heal you, right? So yeah, this is that can be a possibility. So now this kind of reminds me, dealing with the ritual death. Okay, they talked about how they would ingest certain things like opium and so on and other things, and to put them in that kind of state of consciousness. This reminds me of that, of course, the story of the Black Panther, where he went into the ancestral plane by ingesting that heart-shaped herb. Okay, where did he go? He went to the ancestral plane. Now, most initiations involve some kind of symbolic death. Okay, it involved you changing or going from one point to the next, right? So and these initiation processes in ancient Kemet, in Greece, would have been able to bring about an altered state of consciousness, whereby there was an entry into like the spirit world, which become relatively easy, especially for an initiate. And so, of course, we know in the story of the Black Panther, that's where he went. Okay. And so I would like to believe that a lot of these processes are very similar. So it's interesting to note that the voluntary death was an important aspect of the cult of Aset, which initiates willingly for foregoing their mortal lives, and they'll try to be reconnected to Aset. Now, but did Sobekneferu intend on undergoing this process? Okay, was it foul play? Was it did she intend on doing it? She was a priestess already. Did they add too much? Okay, or was there some enemies in that camp that laced that added a little bit more of that stuff, right? So think about this. In a chamber full of hot ashes, okay, this was located in a chamber by the royal palace, not far. It was like in a antechamber. It's a small room, right, adjoining to the temple of Sobek Shadet. So not only this was a short distance away from the labyrinth and from the pyramid complex, but the entire palace presumably was functioned as a spiritual retreat for Sobekneferu. So was this how Sobekneferu met her end? By going into the chamber of ashes to not return. We can assume that. Okay, we can assume that, but we also know that there were some enemies there. We also know that there were some people that didn't like her. Okay, so but the thing is, the reality is, none of this implies that her brief life was ended like this. Okay, but we do know the first woman to wear the double crown was Sobekneferu, restoring truth and justice and cosmic order in the two lands. This would have gave her primary, the uniting of two lands gave her, that was her primary. Everything else would be secondary. Yeah, I'm sure she has some enemies because a lot of people didn't like her policy by not dealing with the foreign people like that, and some people still her team Amenem had the fourth, but and some people might believe that the priest of Osiris of Abydos had came into play, and some would believe that, say, the priest of Amun got into it, and there was also a group of priests at Heliopolis. Okay, this strong interest of the cult of Atun. He was Amenemhat the Fourth was really loyal to the priests of Heliopolis. That is in the northern part, close to where the Hyksos are, and so they would have supported Amenemhat the Fourth's ideas in social and economic policy, which is seen including both an establishment of the New Kingdom in the Sinai region and the Hyksos 13th to 14th dynasty. So there was a group of people, a group of priesthood that were not too cool with Sobekneferu being involved. And since Amenemhat the Fourth is not there anymore, they got to deal with her. So, yeah. And so that being said, did Sobekneferu intend on undergoing this process? I think so. Was it foul play? I'm not sure. Did an ancient ritual go wrong? I know a ritual took place, but we'll find out a little bit more, right? We're gonna learn a little bit more. Yeah, so we talked about the ancient mother of crocodiles, regicide rituals, and revenge. We're not done with that though. And yeah, coming up, we're gonna talk about DNA, dynasties, and deception, because we're gonna find out who King Tut's mother really is. Okay, right before Mother's Day. We're gonna run this DNA test. We're gonna run this information. Now, this here, I've been holding in my back pocket for like a month. Fire and light, okay? Because somebody has something to say about this picture. I did a discussion about the amazing civilization of Ethiopia, and somebody wanted to say something slick, saying that we are Eritrean and not Ethiopian and whatnot. Bro, we're talking about the Nile Valley, and in one point in time, Eritrea didn't exist. Okay, so yeah, we're gonna get into that. So if you haven't seen the amazing civilization of Ethiopia to catch up, this fire and light, that is a part 2 to that. Okay, thrones of fire and temples of light, the Kandeki, the Kandic queens, and esoteric knowledge of ancient Kush. That is going to come up. That's coming up. Okay, that's coming, I think, this week. Okay, we're going to try to do a live Friday, and then we're going to do the DNA dynasties and deception that Sunday. Okay, all right, so I got to check roll. All right, so we got roll call. We got One Voice Africa. Oh, wait a minute. So we got a humble request. Any session on symbolism. Now, see, y'all really want me to go into this. Do we have a session on symbolism? We can. Okay, comment below if you want me to go into more of the symbolic thought of ancient Kemet and Kush. Type in, y'all, for those who on live, y'all can type in symbolism. Those who on the replay, type in symbolism. But yeah, we can go. Okay, it's not just about what I want to teach y'all, it's what you guys want to learn. Okay, it's about y'all. We are all learning together. Yes, we're in the book, but we can go, we can take a turn, as you can see, right? So yeah, thrones of fire and temples of light. Let's get it. Okay, thrones of fire, temples of light, that is coming up hopefully this Friday. We want to try to get into that. We've been, these last few weeks have been interesting, but it's been fun. Prince Cam, he came to town. Shout out to him. He's running track for Langston University. He won his track meet, and he's like number 9 in the nation. Shout out to him. He is number 9 in the 400. That is fast. I cannot beat him in the foot race no more. I can't do it no more. And shout out to Prince Josh. He cleaned up, and he received some band awards. So this weekend has been great. So family is important, y'all. All right, so now let me see. Check roll, see who's here. All right, One Voice Africa, Fabric 86. These guys have either added value to the discussion or have newly been added. All right, so rock with me, nation. We got to bring back Theo B and them. That was fun. Ali 9532. Shout out to the fam. Grand Madam Tarot. Bolana. I'm sorry. Queens of Kings Empress. Mo. Shout out to Mo. Ancient Divinations. Alicia Thomas. Andre. Shout out to Andre. What's going on? Adrian Rice. Library Without Borders. We ain't done. Peggy Harrison. Miss Blue. Kiara Haynes. Shout out to Kiara Haynes. Jay Williams. Anuti Davila. General Bunches. Comedic Nation. Naomi Jackson. Sister Linda. Lily. Yahya Shabaka. Check him out too. He's pretty cool. Tony B. Shelton. Clark Nation Supreme. Zep Teppy Slim. And CryptoCon. If you are present, if you're still with us, if you still on this, and you're at the end of this point, okay? All right. If you're still here, okay, and I didn't call your name, like and comment here. All right, like and comment here. All right, very good. I see Mo say, I just called your name. Get your life together. All right, so yeah, we're going to get into some symbolism. We're going to get into that. If y'all want to discuss symbolism, type symbolism, in the comment section, we'll get into it. Summer is about to be upon us. I ain't got nothing but time. Okay, all right. So, and special shout out one more time to Asar Imhotep. He's a great linguist, and the land of Cam and ancestral way for that diagram. He brought that diagram down and he made the connection between Kongo and Kemet, but we're not done with the subject though. Now, the book that we have, the First Female Pharaoh Sobekneferu, the Goddess of the Seven Stars, the link is in the description. As an Amazon affiliate, I earn from qualifying purchases and no additional cost to you. But I have, if you're interested in getting the book, I have it in the description and some other books. Okay, here's some other books. I'll put them in there also. When Women Ruled the World, the 6 Queens of Egypt. The Chronicles of the Queens of Egypt. Check them out. Pretty good. All right. The Book of Coming Forth by Day by E.A. Wallace Budge. And The Temple in Man. If you want us to get into symbolism, that's a good start. Temple in Man is a good start by R.A. Schwaller D. Lubis. Okay. Very good. Now, and special shout out to Books A Million, Love Me Hair, Beauty Stat, Ethiopian Airlines, QVR International, Unice, and it's a black thing. Okay, shout out to them. I am an affiliate to these, and if you like their products and if you enjoy art and all those things, if you enjoy travel, check them out. Okay, and so we just got through talking about the ancient mother crocodiles, the mystery of Queen Nitocris, the Turin Canon, the mysterious third pyramid, which we found out it was built by Menkaure. Okay. The ancient mother crocodiles, the cult of Neith. We're not done with Neith though. We're not done with her. Okay, so stay tuned. We talked about a little bit about revenge, regicide, and a ritual that might have gone wrong. And I just checked roll. Now, but if you like the content, share with somebody who you think might enjoy it, or share it on your social media platform of choice. Okay, we just got to talk about the ancient mother crocodiles, regicide, rituals, and revenge. You just got to hear listen to King Cam Ujumbe podcast, Ujumbe means message, and I really appreciate you guys for coming. The people are talking about symbolism. All right, so we're gonna get into that. Okay, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to come through, say hi to the fam, and I will talk to you guys later.